Minecraft Survival with a 100-day limit, an idea you've probably seen upteen square times before now, but in case you haven't, don't worry, doesn't need much introduction. As what you do is you load up a Minecraft Survival world, right, and you play it for 100 Minecraft days. Pretty self-explanatory. There's not even like a special gimmick to follow in this one, it's a vanilla experience, well, not entirely vanilla, there's a few mods in there, mainly just a mini-map and a few performance things, but that's really it. So before we actually throw in the rundown of what happened these 100 days, I've got a unique business proposal for you. It doesn't have to be accepted now, you've actually got the next 1 hour, 41 minutes, 8 seconds and 20 milliseconds. So you see there's a cool red button somewhere kicking about on your screen, near about where my channel name is. And you see if you press it right, the number counter goes up. And that's pretty satisfying to see. Yeah, that's the sales pitch, there's nothing else, let's just get into it. So believe it or not, we started by making the world itself, which was actually played on normal mode rather than hard mode, or what most 100 days are, hardcore, because this is the first time I'd actually tried to play a PC or Java Minecraft world on a keyboard and mouse, and all honesty, I was very, very scared. That's the reasoning. So we spawned in a snow biome to begin with, which had really nothing at all around us, but there was one single tree at the top of the mountain, which we slowly made our way to, chopped it all the way down, and believe it or not, after chopping down a tree in Minecraft, can you guess what we did next? I know it's pretty hard to work out, but we went and made a crafting table with the planks from the logs, and we made ourselves some first nice starter tools, a wooden pickaxe and a wooden axe. Can't go wrong with that. Well, at least we had a lovely treat awaiting us as soon as we just turned around and we saw there was no more snow anymore, and it was a nice, lovely, normal, grassy oak biome and another tree for us to chop down yet again. We had to go down hunting for food because we're at the very start of the game, as we desperately tried to attack the fishes in the ocean and failed miserably. Missed about 4 shots in a row, and they were outpacing us, and yeah, I'd rather not speak about it for too long, it was embarrassing. But there was also sugarcane kicking about, which was always nice to gather early on. Before we turned right back to our favourite hobby of mining down every single tree, because I'm petrified of going down to a mine and not having logs on me in case I get stuck. And then I got very, very, very excited and distracted because I saw the new wolf skin for the very first time. Because this was like when the updated, like, recent-ish came out, and I was freaking out over it, okay. I tried to tame it with sugarcane. It did look interested, but it wasn't having the sugarcane for some reason. I can't imagine why, sadly. After a very quick relog, because for some reason the original mod pack I didn't install replay mod. I don't know why. It was a very silly decision. I mined more trees because I just loved mining trees. I just couldn't get enough of it. It was just such a joyful thing to spend my first day doing. I have so much footage of me just destroying trees. It's a little ridiculous, I can't lie. So after getting a decent size, I think it's what was it, 43 oak logs alone, little on how much birch I got, I found a cave which had a nice little bit of coal, so I took the opportunity and worked on getting some stone upgrades. So we got our 3 cobblestone, we made another crafting table, because I apparently cannot see I have one on my hotbar. I just, you know, it's a very filled hotbar, you know, there's a lot of things in my inventory, you can't blame me, right? So at least we grabbed all the coal, because coal's quite useful, and as we were about to turn back to get more logs, luckily I saw a glimpse of iron that tempted me to stop this fate of getting logs, and actually delve deeper into the cave. So we got this one single bit of iron, nothing else. Went down and made ourselves some torches so we could at least attempt to see something in the cave, and started to get to work of finding any resources really, because it's pretty early game. So lapis, already very, very good stuff to get, and we saw a gold mine of iron on the right of us, which obviously couldn't go wrong going to collect, right? I'm actually just so good at this game. Oh, that was 3 hearts! 3 hearts! 3 hearts from a skeleton! Did the spider hit me at the same time? The spider, no, what? How? No, you don't get to do this to me. You don't get to do this to me. This is literally my first day. That's my first day being bored. I'm seconds alive. My brain is not even formed yet. You're hitting a harmless baby. Let me in here, please. I'm building a little hole. I'm building a hidey hole. You can't stop me. Thankfully, the trusty hidey hole did give us a little bit of safety to get ourselves geared up and just be a bit more settled, as we got ourselves some nice cooked food to have in our inventory and got ourselves some fancy new tools, a sword and an axe, both made with stone. Sadly, the hidey hole had run its course, and it was time for us to pack up and leave and go back to the dangerous caves. So we geared up all of our stuff, picked up our second craft table and furnace, had a little peek outside, met our zombie pal that had been growling outside since I even got in here, and made a dashing escape to the left. Venturing deeper into the cave, we were met with 2 creepers, and we tried to run to the left and met with an amazing gift, our first diamonds. One of these scary creepers did spring into action and attempt to stop us from getting this amazing diamonds, so we used our new stone axe for the very first time and slowly dealt with the danger. Thankfully for our sake, there was some iron pretty nearby, so we didn't have to try and make an iron pickaxe with a single iron ore, as that would have ended pretty badly. And after trying to mine this iron, we did see some more lapis just appear from the skies like a gift from above. And of course we had to collect it. It'd be rude not to, after all. It was perfectly timed as well, as when we came down, our iron had already smelted, so we made a shield for protection and boots as well for some reason on autopilot, and I had to go get more iron for a pickaxe, which is just great. I also did manage to capture some magic on screen as a creeper just suddenly appeared after I looked behind me not even a second ago. I don't know how, I must have been really good at hiding. After a quick celebration dance, which of course you have to do, we collected all of the iron and headed straight back to our furnace because we were not letting those diamonds disappear on our watch. We had to get them. And trust me, that we did, as we saw to ourselves to make an iron pickaxe, have a wee look at the diamonds, and a very healthy vein of 6 diamonds welcomed us in open arms. But do you know what else welcomed us with open arms in the rest of the mining trip as we went deeper? An extra collection of diamonds. As we went to 7, to 8, to 9, to 10, it was going incredibly well. A creeper appeared, but no, it still kept going well as we walked further and got 11 diamonds. We were over the minimum threshold of double digits. Life was incredible. And that marked the end of an incredibly successful day 1, as we now find ourselves in day 2 with not many hearts and no food, trying to get back to the surface with our newfound resources. We vanquished the zombie that was growling behind us and took the moment of safety to try create some building blocks with the logs we had remaining. This was a very poor decision, as I soon found out, as another zombie snuck up and disaster struck. I hope that explains to you why this is a normal mode world, not a hard mode or hardcore world, because I'm not the best at the video game. We certainly didn't waste much daylight as we charged back to the scene of the crime and just jumped straight into the cave with no fears whatsoever, because quite frankly, we had nothing to lose anymore. We had already lost everything, and all of our items were now at risk of despawning and being lost forever. As we slowly saw our old grave appear in front of us and experience orbs fill the ground, we tried to do a careful, methodical approach, and I panicked when I saw a creeper next to it and I was scared of it blowing up, so I ran and survived. But it was not over yet, as I still heard all the skeletons shooting behind me. I was covered with spikes, I had to jump and flee, but we made it. We made it to safety, and I could try and sort my inventory out, and a new hidey hole, Mark II. Thankfully, after sorting ourselves out, we did manage to flee the cave successfully this time and managed to get to the surface. Phew. If the favourite hobby of day 1 was just to mine wood over and over again, it seemed we had abandoned that hobby in day 2, as we'd found a new thing to fill our time with, which was just to keep on murdering every single fish that lived and get a handle on the food situation, because the scenario of us starving in a cave with no health whatsoever did leave a few scars, and I was making sure that would not ever happen again. I did also make another furnace so we can start smelting all the iron we gathered on our trip, because to not die, I think armour would be a good step. So we made our chest plate, we checked ourselves out in it, we looked fantastic, and had a weird encounter with this chicken that did not stop staring at me the entire time I was smelting things. I tried to communicate with it, but I couldn't understand what its language was, sadly. We cut our losses with a language barrier and packed our things away before saying goodbye to what would have been a good friend if we knew what they were trying to warn us of. With our new tools and armour, we did aim to go back to the mine that gave us all these goods in the first place, but we did have trouble finding it to begin with. I mean, we did get quite a healthy batch of coal from this random cave that looked pretty similar from the outside, but after a very long search, we did eventually find the old cave, right in the distance, awaiting us. Without sounding like I'm overreacting about the cave, I do think this is the greatest cave that's ever existed in the Minecraft world, without a single debate. There's no need for a conversation. There was so many resources still waiting despite us had already been mining inside of it. But we ticked over to day 3 now, and we began smelting some more of our iron for a bit more armour, And we did make a boat so we could be safe in killing the Enderman we saw in the distance, because I was scared of dying again. We had already died once, and we're only on our 3rd day. So let's try to keep that number a little bit low at least, let's not embarrass ourselves. And we did kill it for nothing. There wasn't an ender pearl. But we did make a bundle, and oh, what a bundle of joy it was as we immediately sorted our inventory from all the junk that had been sitting in it that I wanted to take to our base when we built it. And it's time for you to see some of the evidence of why this is the greatest cave ever, as we continued our unbelievable luck of killing creepers and discovering diamonds directly next to them, as we saw 2 veins already, one on the middle pillar and one on the right, which we gladly decided to pick up. But it didn't stop there, as we were just gathering some gold, and guess what was below it? Right below it, not 1 diamond, 2 diamonds, just relaxing underneath the gold that I just decided to mine. It's incredible. It was incredible, but wait, there's more diamonds, can you believe it? That's kind of why I'm like saying this is the best cave ever, because there was just so many diamonds. It never stopped. I was finding them accidentally. I kept on venturing to get whatever diamonds I saw first, and I just bumped into more and more and more. It was incredible. I don't know how many more words to describe it. And with this new series of luck just falling in our laps, we might as well try our luck again at killing an enderman to get an ender pearl. And wouldn't you know what it dropped? An ender pearl. And we just can't stop winning. We kill a baby zombie and bam, there's more diamonds awaiting us. We collect more diamonds. We go down to try leave. We get knocked down by a skeleton, find more diamonds. We're trying to find a new way up. I guess what we see in the distance? Diamonds! Again! And again! And it was incredible. It was genuinely incredible. We do find an amazing lava pool as well, so we just use some of our diamonds. You know, we've got to be very scarce about using them. We don't have that many. And we decided to get all the obsidian we could possibly need, which did take us all the way in a day 4, because I wanted to be very, very safe with the amount of obsidian I got. We got 20 blocks in the end. I know, an incredible amount, but I should never have to fight them again. But here's another 2 endermen, because we're now on a roll. We're on a roll with ender pearls, and wouldn't you know it? I mean, it's not 2 ender pearls, but we can't be too greedy. It's still 1. We're still slowly, passively getting them, because we do not want a situation like we had in the Mario series. Oh, not those ender pearls, please no. Now, if you thought those first few days were action-packed, I mean, I've got a little rest period for you now, because not much really happens in day 4. Really, at all. I mean, we mined a lot of trees, we got a lot of food, and we just walked, and walked, and walked to try find a place that I wanted to build a home and build, like, an area, but it just wasn't happening for whatever reason. I mean, we got a lot of fun resources that will be useful once we find a place, but it was just the whole day. I mean, we just kept on walking and walking. I mean, a nether portal was good to find. The rune portal with gapples that'll be useful later on, and some block of gold, some nice armor, but I mean, we already had obsidian anyway, but I mean, we made the day 5, and you know what day 5 included? More of the same. I mean, we found an island with cows and cattle on it, so we thought we'd just reenact what Odysseus' men did, and killed all the cattle, but we didn't seem to get punished. And we just kept on going. We got a spruce sapling, and then we just kept on walking and walking until finally it was there. We found what we were looking for all along, a perfect location to call our own. I'm sure that shot felt very, very, very cinematic, didn't it? Doesn't it feel like epic now that you've seen like the mountain at such a big range? You're like, whoa, this can truly be something, isn't it? I mean, that was the feeling I had when I saw the place. That's why we picked here. That's why we spent so many days trolling to find somewhere. But, you know, of course, if this was going to be our place, we kind of had to set up camp. So we had to place our crafting table, our furnace, dump all the stuff that we have sitting in our inventory. And to try not die, we kind of need to light the place up, because zombies, creepers, skeletons, all the likes will spawn if it's dark, and I don't want to die again. I like living. Living is kind of cool, I can't lie. But you know what also helps us stay alive? Food. Food is quite important. So we need to get a grip of a renewable food source pretty quickly. Luckily, we had some amazing volunteers to help us out that were waiting for us at the top of the mountain. Some cows that were more than willing to help. They were not against the idea whatsoever, because they were just so desperate to see me succeed in 100 days. They just could not wait to get into the fence and spend the rest of their life there. There was no struggle whatsoever. It was completely voluntary. If anyone shows you otherwise, they're wrong. Okay, maybe I have to bribe them with a little bit of wheat. Maybe, but I would say it was a gift more than a bribe, personally. That's the wording I would use. So that's the wording we can agree on, right? Alright, you caught me. There was a group that disagreed. The phantoms that were waiting at the top of the mountain, attacking me over and over again at the sight of me trapping the cows. The only solution to this was to sleep, because I had no food, it was all still cooking, I was panicking, I saw my hearts going down, and I didn't want anything to do with it. So I did sleep through the night. But I promise this is the only time through the entire 100 days I'm going to sleep again. Every other day is going to be the most productive day ever. Look in those eyes. They wouldn't lie to you, would they? No, of course not. So what were all the productive things that happened in day 6? Let's see. Well, first of all, we did finish that cow farm, albeit in a very makeshift way in the end, because I may have not crafted enough fences to begin with, so just treat the oak pillars as part of the design, you know, they're meant to be there, right? They look natural enough. We smelted some of our iron that we got from our initial mining trip, made a new pickaxe because you can never have enough iron pickaxes, and an iron axe because having a good axe is quite useful when your other one's about to break. And we went immediately straight back down into the mines because I needed coal. A lot and a lot and a lot of coal. Because our starter base is going to require a lot of smelting, believe it or not, which you'll soon come to understand. I'm sure you'll be able to put the pieces together in literally like about a minute. But pretend there's suspense, okay? Pretend you have no idea what I could possibly need all the coal for. What mystery block is needed to be smelted. Oh, the suspense! The suspense is killing me! What could it possibly be? Don't worry, there's going to be time to just let yourself relax again, as I need to do a lot more of the early game, boring setup tasks. So we got ourselves just a few of the random blocks that you need to craft stuff. We gradually got more comfortable doing the hike up and down the mountain because we had no water up there whatsoever, so we had to quickly fill up 2 buckets of water, head all the way back up, so we could build our sugarcane farm, because we're going to need a lot of sugarcane, mainly just for paper. Because to enchant stuff, you need paper. We've already got the cows for leather. You get the paper and the leather together, you get the books. Books, bookshelf, bam, amazing enchants. It's a perfect formula. Although it seems to be saying this formula out loud can summon a very scary zombie to just attack you while you're in the middle of doing something, but this is actually better than just a scary zombie. It's a zombie villager. We obviously built our new guest a makeshift house. It did seem the latest attraction of a makeshift house did attract some more visitors. Not any kind-hearted visitors though, as they just kept on trying to blow me up. And I don't like being blown up, because that leads to losing hearts and dying. And if I haven't said already, dying is pretty bad and not cool. You know what's also not very cool? A guy who's pretending to be all productive, spending the rest of the night creating a blast furnace and a smoker because, in his words, he couldn't remember which one smelts cobblestone faster. Do you see the flaw in that logic? Do you see it? If you don't already, here's an example. They both don't work. To pick ourselves right back up out of this really upset state, from this just unimaginable feeling of disappointment, we have this one hobby we can turn back to just turn our mood around. It's going back to the forest and mining tree upon 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 tree. It now sounds like I'm saying acorn tree instead of a pawn because I've said it too many times. But yeah, that's all day 7's morning was spent doing. Once returning to the base, we were pretty quickly met with a surprise waiting for us when trying to gather all the stone. That was another zombie villager. I mean, it was a baby variant this time, but we'll gladly take it nonetheless as we tried to tempt it into the boat with just a perfectly made 1 block gap. It was like it was made for it, and just like magic, we have 2 zombie villagers now. It was safe to say we were in a much happier mood now. The baby zombie villager, not as much clearly. It was quite a cosy, relaxing end to the rest of the day 7 night, as instead of fighting and action-based through the night in the woods reference, and battling all these mobs that were there, we were trying to cut down trees, getting attacked by random baby zombies. We just farmed over and over. We got a bunch of our wheat seeds placed down, we attempted to find our sugarcane in the bundle, which was very, very counterintuitive. It seemed to take forever to do it, and that was definitely not the intended way. We got our cow farm slowly getting results as we slowly managed to get some wheat. Day 8 was slowly approaching as in character I guess we placed a little tripod outside the cave as we spent a lot of day 8 mining. Mining what, you may ask? Just stone. We just mined a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot of stone, because we need a lot of cobblestone. I wonder what that smelting mystery block is. I really do wonder. Have you worked it out yet? If you guessed cobblestone, you're wrong! No, you're actually right. I did use a lot of the cobblestone to make a super mega furnace. But the block we are smelting is actually cobblestone, as we just started loading every single stack of cobblestone we gathered right into the mega furnace along with all the coal we gathered. See, there was a reason for it all. There was a reason we needed all the cobblestone and the reason we needed all the coal. It was planned and productive. But you know what else is actually pretty productive? Making a separate chest for all the blocks that we need for our starter house. Every single block we could possibly need is just going to be available to grab inside this chest, which is going to be right next to where we're roughly planning to build it. I haven't mined out the area yet, but we were going to get there. We were just building up all the resources, because this is going to be quite a big starter base in all honesty, because it's going to be the main pedestal of our location. It's just going to be central focus. I want it to be something we can see from below at the top of the mountain. Something a lost traveller, after days of searching in the woods for some type of safety and shelter, could see as a light beckoning towards them, welcoming them with open arms. I want that to be my starter base, a symbol of hope. I hope that sales pitch was enough to distract you from the day 9 morning, which is our favourite hobby and event, mining more trees, as we got a few more stacks of birch and a few more stacks of oak to add to our collection. As the night of day 9 approached, we slowly journeyed back to our home base and put all of our new wooden logs inside the chest. We also did sort the chest so it actually looked nice and I could be able to grab from it easy when I'm building the starter base. Although progress was slow and steady, our collection of smelted cobblestone was slowly growing as we managed to fill the chest more and more and more. But there was one thing that we're missing in the chest. So can you guess what we did? We crafted another axe and we went out to go mine some more trees. I mean, we went to a different biome this time. We ran all the way to the spruce forest and got a bunch of spruce wood. Because we just love collecting wood. It's the best hobby ever, apparently. We just cannot get enough of it. Day 10 quickly and immediately became our best day ever within its first few hours as we saw a dog with bones in our inventory and bam. Achievement made, best friends forever. Meet Blossom, the bestest, silliest and amazingest dog ever, and nothing bad will ever happen to them. After putting our new iron axe on basically just a block away from breaking in two and snapping, we did intend to head home, but we did get a little sidetracked as we saw some sugarcane across the shore, and wouldn't you know it, look what's across the shore. There's more sugarcane. So we went to go collect that, and do you see what's up ahead? There's more sugarcane, so I guess we gotta pick that up. But do you see what's even further ahead? More sugarcane. But do you see what's you get the picture. But look, it's better to gather the sugarcane now instead of sitting waiting around at our base for our own sugarcane farm to grow. Because if it's there sitting around right outside our base anyway, we might as well bring it home, but it still sadly wasn't enough sugarcane, so yeah, we spent the rest of the day just tending to farms, building a bigger farm, and, you know, doing all that sort of stuff. But you might think now that we've got all of our wood, we're going to go put all our wood in that chest, get our material chest, and finally build a starter base? Yeah, no, that's not what the next plan of attack was actually. The next plan of attack was to go to the nether. Not for the reason you think, but considering this is our main camp, we really need this nether portal to give us a good location when we go in the nether. Be a nice open place, not enclosed, so we can go to anywhere in the dimension we want. And it didn't do that. At all. After coming to the conclusion that breaking our diamond pickaxe just to get outside of this wee cave we spawned in wasn't going to be the best form of action, we quickly went back home, used our iron, made an iron pickaxe, went back to the nether and started mining until we found a way outside of this barren open cave at the top of the nether. After eventually finding land, we did build arguably the greatest staircase that's ever existed inside the history of Minecraft, and we got to work in gathering some of the blocks we actually needed for our starter base. Look, this is going to be the final trip before we actually go build our starter base, so we might as well gather wood one final time just because the very wood in the nether, whether it's the crimson or the warped one, is just incredibly good to use, I think, because it brings in natural light from the veins inside it. Well, that might actually just be a shader's effect, I'm not entirely sure, but I know one block that's not just light from shaders, and that's glowstone. Glowstone definitely gives light whether you're using shaders or not, and glowstone's just a really good block to have to be able to pull from at any point. So we did collect almost all the glowstone. We did leave one single block for the poor pigman that decided to climb up, because I did not want to anger him and cause a crowd to attack me.
What?
Oh, but look at what chance of redemption had appeared in front of us. An old friend. MCC Nether variant, you've returned! Nether MCC in the house. Wait, no, get out of there. Get out of there, Nether MCC. I don't think you realize you're hurting yourself in there. I don't have a pickaxe. This is not the way you want it. No! That is tragic! Oh, the poor little... Wait, why are you coming over to judge me? No, it's not my fault. Don't look at me like that. Why are you looking at me too? I only briefly paused the game so I could write down a timestamp of when we got to see our old friend again to help future me edit, and disaster may have struck once again without me realising. It was horrible. I'll never escape this curse. So I just sat there, motionless, in shock, in fear, in grief, because it happened again. My chance redemption had just slipped through the cracks. I could see the rotten flesh fill the air with that all-familiar smell. It made me feel weak, powerless, just as it did back then. As I slowly felt control seep back into my body, there was only one thing I wanted to do. I had to run. I had to run as far and as far and as far away from the horrible place that was reminding me of what I've desperately tried to forget over and over. I had to get away. With tears in my eyes, I rushed back through the portal and tried to go back to living a normal life. But hey, everything is fan-dabby-dozy. Just look at that chest. Look at all the blocks that are in it now. Building this house is going to go so smoothly with all that stuff. But I wasn't quite building it yet. I had a few busy tasks I still wanted to do before I started building. So I did venture out in the night with the intention of collecting a bunch of food for me to eat from different sheep and cows and whatnot, without a little distracting trip to just get a little bit of iron, coal, and randomly an emerald at the surface, because I was just sitting there. I did eventually gather up all the food I could possibly need for now and return home to get started on one of two of the tasks I kind of had to get around to doing before I could build the main big starter base. So it's time to clean out the inventory and get to the first task, which, can you guess what it is? It's a task due to my poor planning of putting the zombie villagers right where I want to build my house. I can't have them there because I obviously need to build on that land, so I had to start this painful process of building a temporary little tunnel to funnel them through to get them away from where I want to build. But hey, it was a frustrating task, but it wasn't actually too time consuming. It did lead to a little dramatic chase to get through the tunnel before the baby zombie caught me, because they are fast. Incredibly fast. I mean, someone should make a big warning about baby zombies being scary at Minecraft. I can't imagine anyone's had a big deal or encounter with a baby zombie. But I can't imagine it's going to be long, because, they're quite dangerous. And I'll show you how dangerous they are while I was trying to get them back in a boat, as the one little guy was determined to die if it meant killing me. So I had to place him in a boat outside and work from there, because he just couldn't stay in the tunnel. I just want him to stay in the tunnel, so I could place the boat, I could wander in and be perfect, but no. Now I made the tunnel, had to make an extension of the tunnel, lead the other baby zombie into the new boat, and now I had to break the tunnel. It was not a fun task. But there was one other task that had to be done, and it was a similar situation. My poor planning had led to the cows being right where I want to build, so the cows got pushed right into a new makeshift farm made with netherrack. However, there was a family of 3 that tried to leave my makeshift farm while I built it. This situation must be dealt with. There is no time for weakness. I cannot be hesitant. Okay, maybe I can be a wee bit hesitant. There's no need to kill a baby, is there? Because babies don't have mob drops. That's the only reason you would not kill a baby. A group of mobs did approach me slowly and start to attack me after I made this decision. So they must have had a motive. My guess is that their motive is they wanted me to also kill the baby, because they were scared of it being an orphan. As most superheroes have their origin story of being an orphan. Luckily, I kept the baby alive, and it had now grown into an adult. So look at it rush into action to defeat the witch as I run for my life. Okay, maybe it didn't do it all on its own. I did help in the end once I healed up. But trust me, the cow's going to become a superhero. However, I now had a new motive of lighting up the area to make sure no mobs spawn, as I now had a superhero to defend. This is totally not me projecting on the fact that I never got to save the baby in the nether, so I'm now defending this baby with my life. But don't worry, on the morning of day 13, we had our productive hat back on and got the last remaining resources we need for our starter base. I know, we're finally going to have a home. After 13 days, we're going to start building a starter base. But look at all those resources that we're going to need. You already know this is going to be a pretty awesome build. But do you know what that means? It means it's a building time-lapse time. Whoa! Look! It's doing the building! You can see the outside of it start to take shape. It looks awesome. But if you think the outside of it looks awesome, wait till you see the inside with a live tour. Hello, hello, hello! We're on day 20. We're a fifth of the way through the 100 days. But you might notice behind me, there's a big, massive tower. What? I know, it looks incredible, it looks incredible, it looks awesome! Because that's our home, that's where we live now. It's just, oh, it's incredible! But you might be wondering, how many materials did that cost? Because you spent so much time gathering materials. Look at that. Look at all the stuff we have left over. We can build stuff with that afterwards, I'm sure of it. But look inside, we've got a carpet. We've got a spiralling staircase with the warp stuff we got from the nether. There's multiple entrance ways. We got up to a second floor where there's these little side bits with like fancy windows with spruce fence. And wow, look at that. A balcony. You might think, wow, a balcony, look at all the stuff you can see over it. Well, what's better than one balcony? What if I walk over here and bam! Look, a second balcony. I probably won't be there much though, because I don't have like any plans to go behind it. But whoa, a third balcony. Well, there's my farms. There's the nether where I went to just to get wood. I probably have to go back there pretty soon to get other stuff. And then we got, look, the top of our home. We've got our bed here. We've got a little chimney. We've got, oh, it looks awesome. It just looks awesome. We actually have a home. Would you look at that? Don't you? Oh, it's oh my! Look, your guess is as good as mine as what on earth that final noise was. I had a look at the clip in Audacity, and it looks like the microphone peaked with whatever gargle noise was made, and it muted itself, and only the final bit of it came out. Which honestly, I'm not sure if that's better or worse. It's certainly an outcome. However, the graph of progression for this world would actually look incredible. As despite it taking us 20 days to build a starter base, on the same day that we made a starter base, we made a diamond axe, a diamond shovel, an enchantment table. We then pulled together the resource from a sugarcane farm and a cow farm, made a bunch of bookshelves, and bam, would you look at that, throw the axe in there at level 30. So the first thing we're going to enchant at level 30 is obviously the axe, because using an axe is our favourite hobby ever. So we quickly made a bunch of bread from our wheat farm, and we went on a journey. Would you know what time it is that we went this journey? It's at night. So we spent the night in the woods, night in the woods reference, and we got to mining and chopping down every single tree ever, because would you believe it, for our next build, we're going to need a bunch of logs. Well, it wasn't just logs that we came all the way out here for, as we also need an absolute bunch of leaves. So we brought shears with us to collect a bunch at one time. I mean, the axe would have worked, because the axe enchant actually does have silk touch, but shears are just so much quicker at destroying leaves, so I kind of thought, it's 2 iron. Is the sunk cost of 2 iron really that devastating to us currently? Not particularly. So we got all of our leaves, we got all of our oak. We did pick up a little bit of spruce while we were here, but we weren't planning on using too much. I was just sort of, we're gathering wood anyway, we've got space in our inventory, we've got a fancy new axe that is just so incredibly fast. We might as well pick it up. However, you do ken that we're getting pretty close to actually building our next big build, as we made the material chest and threw all of our oak logs, oak leaves and spruce logs into the chest. But there was one more material we were missing, and we were going to make sure we never needed to go collect it again. So we spent the entire day, all the way from the night of day 22 to the morning of day 23, just collecting dirt. Bam, look at that. We can almost fill a 3x6 area on the right side of the chest just with stacks of dirt. That's how much we collected. It's pretty impressive. Even the chicken was impressed. I had an audience and everything. It was pretty awesome. But you know what's more awesome? This staircase. Because that's what our build was. It was to build a staircase up to the top of the mountain. But whoa, why is a time-lapse stop building? It's because we didn't have enough oak. You saw how much was in that chest, and it was not nearly enough to get to the top of the mountain. Yeah. We had to go collect more, pause, and come back and finish off the staircase. But at least we built it, and now you get a live tour reaction of it being finished. Whoa, I know, contain your excitement. Hello, 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 it's day 26, and I've got something sick to show you. Sicker/pauseway, of course, because bam, look at this. I'm scaling the mountain, but what's this? I'm not having to jump up and down and lose all my hunger while doing so. Well, you see, it's because we've built a staircase up the mountain. Look how high this is. This took forever. I mean, I do want to do one more build, actually. I do want to build a little hut here, so I can, like, keep chasing it and whatnot. But all I've done is, like, build the last, like, what, 15 days? So I actually kind of want to do some progression stuff first, so I'm going to go do that. Bye! You see, my favourite bit of that clip was that past me decided to start speaking while fumbling about in the pause menu at the start with no dead silence to cut to, and then decided to sign off while fumbling about in the pause menu. So you had to watch me twice, on the pause menu while I fumbled about with the recording program in another tab. Truly outstanding. Anyway, to get back on track about the progression stuff he was yapping about, that was actually true, as I did craft a new diamond pickaxe because our other diamond pickaxe was about a gust of wind away from breaking. We also had to create a diamond sword, and I was going to go mining straight away, but we didn't have enough levels to enchant a diamond pickaxe, so I did spend the entire night just killing mobs and zombies and whatever else I could find, so I could enchant a diamond pickaxe. And this was the best decision I've ever made. I got Fortune 2 on a level 28 enchantment. So with a new, incredible, insane pickaxe in hand, we did go straight into the very first cave I found, which was right underneath our base. And bam, we went to go on... You know how I said before how we found the most incredible cave in all of Minecraft history? That was because this was even better of a mining trip. But I'm not going to technically class it as a cave, which is how I'm going to get around that little title of before, because we found on this trip, which contained all of our lovely goods, well, I'm going to sit here for the dramatic reveal where you look at how fast the pickaxe is, BAM! A mine shaft. But trust me, there's a reason that this qualifies for a technicality title. As you see how we destroyed that one diamond block with our fortune pickaxe, we made it space for it to pick up 3 whole diamonds from one block. How crazy is that? Anyway, we venture further in, find a cave spider that's trying to poison us. No fear, we have a diamond sword. We're not scared of anything anymore, so we vanquished it, got a screenshot of the coordinates, happy days. Wandered on through, what's that minecart with a chest above us? Let's have a little look and oh, another mob spawner with a gapple inside. Don't mind if I do, screenshot taken. As I'm sure you can see, we got so many valuable resources down in this mine shaft, it's pretty much impossible to show all on screen, so there's a decent collection with sped up footage now, but we're about to get our 2 most valuable right here. We got so many chains as decorations, which we're going to use in our next build. And kabam! The glorious gift of not 1, but 2 name tags. You already know what the first name tag is going to be used on. Blossom is officially going to have a name above their head, and it's going to be awesome! Anyway, we went kind of straight further to the edges of the mine shaft for the final bit of it. Got a few more diamonds, got a few more chains, and we kept on trying to wander away from the mine shaft, but I just kept on wandering into more diamonds, which is quite a first world problem, I've got to admit. But it just meant we had an insane collection by the time we got up to the surface. You're probably wondering, wait, how many diamonds did you get? Well, I think the only suitable way to show you, even though you can see my inventory now, is if I grab the remainder of my previous diamonds and I just throw them all on the ground, because it adds up to exactly 2 stacks of diamonds across 2 mining trips. It is honestly incredible. Look how happy this guy is. Look how happy. He's never going to have to go mining again. He's never going to have to go mining again, and he's not even past day 30. So in terms of progression, we're now already pretty set, so I hope you're ready to see the next few days fly by as we start building project upon building project upon building project. Do you remember that little hut I was talking about before? Now seemed like the perfect time to start doing that, so that was the first one we worked on. It did cost us an insane amount of wood, considering most of the interior was going to be wood, or the outside was all wood, and trapdoors are so expensive. I'm not sure why I never realised this before, but I kept building with trapdoors, and it cost me a fortune every single time. But it did start to look pretty nice, and honestly, I actually spent more time in this house rather than I did the actual tower. You might notice whenever I walk through a tower, there's actually nothing inside of it. That's kind of just because I'm like, it's sort of a spectacle more than a home. This house is a home. I spend so much time here over the next about, what? Until we get to the 100 days, really. This is sort of the main hub where I spend most of my time. And I think it honestly came out incredible, to be honest. It looks so cute. It's like a little cottage cabin molded into the mountain. So you come up the wooden staircase and see it. Don't mind me shamelessly getting my screenshots of it, because this was actually my background on my computer for 2 weeks. Not a very long time, but it was my background for a period of time, and bam, we went straight into another build. We had to do a little bit of terraforming first, but considering we had this amazing enchantment table that gave us, the best pickaxe of all time, it felt only fitting that we gave it a rightful podium. So we kind of just used those chains, used a few of our iron for the lanterns, and created a little podium for the enchantment table. But look, if I'm going to put all that effort and smelling all our iron in one go just for this build, there's still one other thing that we need to get around to doing. So we made our blocks of iron, and we crafted ourselves an anvil, plopped in our little name tag, put in the name Blossom, and a fan dabby dozy. Look at that. As good as can be. Say hello to our dog there with an official name tag over their head. The best doggy ever! Just look at the little guy in the window, just look at the little guy! Oh. But now that we've got our home starting to look a bit more homely with all these builds, it was time to just clean up the inventory. And do you remember those resources that we got on that mining trip almost 10 days ago now? It sounds like a perfect time to go grab them and start using them more, in particular the diamonds specifically. Let's actually create some diamond armour. I feel like we've got enough diamonds kicking about, where if we just make ourselves some nice armour, it's not going to go to waste, is it? We've got plenty spare afterwards. So I prepare to take off your hat, tip it off in respect and bow down to say your goodbye to the iron armour that served us so well. It certainly done a job, eh? But look, it's no all doom and gloom as we managed to take our new diamond armour over the enchantment table, have it be all shiny and enchanted with some wonderful enchantments, if I do say so myself. It's not quite level 30, but it'll do. And just look how strong we look now. It's impossible for us to die. Don't you all agree? And yeah, you might have noticed below that we kind of accidentally pressed the hotkey to turn off our time counter at the bottom. You know, I didn't intend to, it just happened, but it's back on now, it's back on now. Next on the do list was to, albeit probably not intentionally done, was to make waves in the progression of the game. I mean, we went to the Nether to go to find the Nether Fortress and get some blaze rods, which you might normally think. I mean, you want blaze rods because you want blaze powder, you stick the blaze powder with ender pearls, you get eyes at ender, and you find the end, and you get in the end portal and all that jazz, but that actually wasn't the reason, albeit it was still, you know, a motivation. It wasn't the reason I went into the Nether to find a Nether Fortress. It was actually so I'd get blaze rods to get a brewing stand, because we've got our zombie villagers still kicking about outside our base, and I kind of want to work on that as our next project and get them up and running as villagers to trade with. So I need blaze rods nonetheless, so I did try to wander through a Nether and find, you know, where a Nether Fortress could be, and I made a very, very, very bad mistake trying to fight off a ghast. You might notice that fireball I just hit back, hit zombie pigman. You might notice the hordes and hordes and hordes of enemies that are now just going to chase and chase and chase me my entire time here. It was awful to deal with. I did cheese it, you know, to begin with, just hiding up here and dealing with them all, but it angered every single pigman in the Nether. Every single one around me was like a hard focused target on pathing towards me, and it made it like near impossible to navigate. All I was doing for a nice wander was to find Nether Fortress, but no. Even the moment I came here, a nice peaceful pigman, oh okay, I can slow down a wee bit, let's build a wee bridge. Oh, happy days, what's that? Oh, more, they don't give up. They do not give up. But, you know, this was actually like the final last wee bit of them, because 2 blocks managed to stop their deadly, deadly chase. And they slowly just went in the wee trip in the lava bath. I'm sure all amazing things happened to them once they reached it. And man, would you look at that? A Nether Fortress, we got what we were looking for and all. Truly an outstanding wee trip. Once we started exploring the Nether Fortress properly, it didn't take us too long to stumble into a blaze spawner, which seemed all well and dandy. It seemed perfect, an enclosed hallway. But the enclosed hallway was actually worse for us as more pigmen had decided to show up and try corner us and attack us. But we eventually managed to gather enough space to block them off, heal up a wee bit, and basically just prod our sword away at their toes until they started to just disappear. Because I did not fancy fighting them in a proper brawl. I'd much rather take the safe option. Anyway, once that situation was dealt with, we decided to then spend a really good chunk of time in this enclosed room, basically just hunting down every single blaze that's ever existed. Because as much as I know we're going to need a lot of blaze rods for when we set up our villager bit, because we're going to need brewing stands, we're going to need blaze powder to make potions to heal the zombie villagers. I don't want to use all my blaze rods on that, and then we get later on down the line to wanting to get the end, and have to do this whole wee hunt and grind all over again. So I basically just wait until I had 27, which seemed like more than enough at the time. I very much doubt we're going to manage to use up all 27, so we might as well start looking to head back. I mean, we did take a slow detour back. We did find a chest side Nether Fortress, a saddle and diamond horse armor, which was great. And once we got close enough to the staircase on the way home, we just mined quartz till we got to level 30, because we were pretty much there anyway, and it's just so easy to get XP by mining quartz. It's just the time sink more than anything. But that was all for the Nether centered activities for now, as we started to head back home, and immediately just started walking right back to our re-enchantment table bit, and used level 30 on our sword, which wasn't too great to be honest. Sharpness 3 with no unbreaking was a bit disappointing, but it'll do. Anyway, we made our brewing stand, because we want to get on with a project involving these two and healing them up to be regular villagers, but I didn't want to just shove them in a random one by one wee the area, I wanted to build like a nice wee area for them, a nice wee village. So to get some concrete, I need to get some sand and gravel, so I picked up Blossom for a little bit of adventure time because we needed to go on a little quest, and it was going to get pretty lonely. Look, I might have already been spilled in the thumbnail, but I'll try to keep it a secret nonetheless of what the plan is going to be to build these houses for the villagers to stay in. It will use a lot of concrete though. Ignore me failing to understand colour theory and failing to make purple dye in the first attempt. I just wanted to give Blossom a purple collar, and I might have failed miserably. I mean, gravel collection went smoothly enough, it just went in small patches around, you know, the location. We got a massive sand chunk to mine through, but as we were trying to mine through it, every drowned in the world decided it wanted to attack me, so I sat Blossom down and just went in the mission of murdering every single drown that was around. Which, if you watch the timer, by the way, throughout this whole thing, this took so long. For some reason, I don't know if it was because of the structures that were spawned in, which meant this was more likely for drowns spawning, but there was so many drowns for whatever reason. But, you know, it did kind of lead me towards the structures and actually notice them, and we did get a very, very fancy buried treasure map in the first one, and another in the second one. I did later realise that both of these treasure maps point to the exact same location. But, you know, at the time it felt awesome to have two, and look, in the end as well, we found red dye as well, so we can make purple dye. So everything worked out in the end. I mean, just look at wee Blossom when the purple dye goes in the collar, they just look incredible, the little guy just looks so awesome all of the time! Me and Blossom did have to swallow the pill once we got home that adventure time was now over. There was no more distant lands for us to go to, and the stakes that were previous there with the drowns are now gone. But hey look, we now have a bunch of sand and gravel to commit to the project with the villagers when the time comes, but there is one incredibly boring task that everyone's done in a Minecraft world, and everyone hates doing in a Minecraft world that was still to come, and that was putting up signs and labelling chests and taking all of our lovely items outside of the random chests dotted around the home area and actually putting them in correct chests so I can find stuff. Not the most interesting task in the world, but it has to be done at some point. As a little treat after we managed to complete it, we took out our treasure map and decided to go on a little hunt for some treasure. At least that was the objective anyway, as very quickly into the adventure we did stumble right into a villager outpost, and we kinda, you know, had to go see what loot it had to offer. It would be rude not to after all, so we killed the leader guy and got the banner and we got the bad omen potion, crawled our way up to the top of the tower, and I mean, Power 4 was a useful book, but the rest of it was sort of just crops that we could use if we wanted to have other different farms. There was nothing really like outstanding. I'll tell you what is incredible, having a way to quickly get to this treasure map place we're trying to find, and do you know what a horse does when you've got a saddle from the nether? It lets you get there pretty quickly. So we hopped onto that horse, and before you even know it, we're already at where the treasure was. We also had to make a little hidey hole for the horse to stay in while we went digging for the treasure, because, you know, the horse has to stay safe. And oh boy, was there some goodies inside. Not limited to diamonds, emeralds, and a heart of the sea, but it did mean we had to head home in the dark, which wasn't going to plan. I mean, this is pretty much just the camel and secret life when you think about it, no? I mean, I'm just going by every single mob, and none of them can hit me, but I can certainly just mess up my stuff. Fun! Oh! It's about for the best that I didn't have some heart monitor technology on at the time, because if I did, it probably would have automatically sent an alert to the hospital that I was dead. But, you know, it did give me an excuse to mine up even more gravel while the horse healed up just a little bit, and take a little bit of a safer route home, which thankfully didn't have any more surprises waiting for us. We dropped off our horse at the bottom of the tour because it was the safest place we had available in terms of the buildings that we've built. That has got a high enough roof to be able to safely contain a horse and not have it be at risk of suffocation by climbing anything inside. And we picked up all of our resources that we'd gathered in the last few days, along with the sand and gravel, made our double chest, plopped it down next to the bridge, because you know what we're going to do? We're going to finally build that village set piece to put all our villagers in. So I guess that means it must be just about time for a building time lapse. Okay, all the villager set pieces are going to be different coloured mushroom houses. This one in particular is blue, so I can talk about my favourite Mario character, Blue Toad. Okay, so did you know Blue Toad's actually the third most popular playable character in Mario platforms? He has 2 extra appearances in Yellow Toad, one in Super Mario Bros. 2, which is in the reskin Doki Doki Panic, and another appearance in Super Mario Bros. 3D World. Also, Nintendo Dev Team have an exclusive name for Blue Toad since New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which is Book and Barrel. Wait, no, come back! Hello, look what's behind me! There's something new! That's why I'm checking up! Can you tell? And we've got the little Blue Toad mushroom house right here, looking fantastic. I made far too much blue concrete to do so. Look how much in that chest. I don't know how I'm going to use all that up, because the other two I want to build is I want to build a yellow and a red one. I'm definitely going to have one here in this little perch at the bottom and a red one somewhere, but I have no dye, so I need to work on that, so bye! And work on that we shall, but first, before going on the hunt for different flowers for dye, we did spend a little bit more time cutting down trees, because what else do I ever do in this world? Come on. I mean, it's because I want to build the red house and the yellow house at the same time, so I don't want to be running around chasing getting more wood midway through a build. I just want to have all the wood available to me whenever I so desire. But once we obviously got all that wood, we could actually clean up our inventory and go to a little hunt. I went to the back side of the base because, to be honest, I've never really adventured here and I'm almost halfway through the 100 days. So that probably should be something I look to do. I did have, you know, a nice tasty bit of gravel in the stone island that was here, so I could gather that up for the concrete. There was some lava that was just sitting begging to give me the achievement for the, you know, having a lava bucket, and so many yellow flowers, so many blue flowers. Oh, what's that? A village just wandered into my path. Do not mind if I do. The village didn't hold many fruits for us to bear, but that wasn't really the main concern, to be totally honest. I mean, I have plenty resources as is compared to what a village can theoretically give me. The more useful part of having a village is being able to note that down with it so close to our base. And as a backup plan, if we ever need more villagers to move into our little mushroom houses, we can just carefully persuade them from this location to sort of move into our lovely abode. Returning home was next the agenda with a bit more sand and gravel than I was expecting, and so many flowers are turning to dye, which meant that we could very happily go back to our little building area, pop up all of our stuff in the chest, and get ready to start another building time lapse. Specifically, the red original toad and the yellow toad don't quite feel the same obsession as a variant to me as the blue toad, but still Toad at the end of the day, and that little guy I would die for. That little guy deserves the world, okay? Toad is like the greatest character ever created. Even if I did have some fun facts to share, I would get interrupted by this zombie villager here that was desperate to get involved, so it got to be the first little civilian inside the yellow toad variant. Anyway, I'm sure you really enjoyed that yellow toad time lapse, so how about you watch the exact same time lapse again, but this time it's red concrete. Wow, I know, incredible. Anyway, so after this was sort of done, we went around each toad house and built the little villager pillars that we planned to put them in. So while this is happening on screen, I'm going to talk about my Dream Nintendo game just because I want to. My Dream Nintendo game has nothing to do with the gameplay itself. My only requirement for a Dream Nintendo game is to have Captain Toad, but he's blue. That is the only thing I want, and I also want Blue Captain Toad to be a pirate. Look on screen now, I drew that on my 3DS in the Pokemon Art Academy, so like ignore the little watermark at the bottom right, but look how awesome he would look, don't you agree? We need this immediately. Please, I will do anything Nintendo. Anyway, let's actually start talking about the 100 days again, instead of me just talking about Blue Toad because I want to, because Blue Toad's awesome. You might notice me looking at the fermented spider eye crafting recipe, because that's what we need for the potion of weakness to cure the zombie villagers. But we don't have any brown mushrooms in any of our chests whatsoever. So the last place I remember seeing brown mushrooms that was in a relatively close distance was when we were on the Nether Fortress hunt to try find where we could get a blaze spawner. So it meant going all the way back to the Nether, going all the way back across the bridge where we got chased by the pigmen and gathering just a few brown mushrooms, and yeah, that was the entire purpose of the trip. It really didn't have much in terms of resources. I mean, we killed a few Endermen just because for some reason Endermen just seem to love to gather around this staircase, but yeah, that was the trip to the Nether this time. Not much action involved, just sort of, we needed a brown mushroom, so we got a brown mushroom. But hey, we now have all the resources we could possibly need for a splash potion of weakness, but we don't have the glass bottles yet, so I do actually need to smelt some sand, which we have plenty of now from the concrete grind, and we're going to just sit here for no other reason, just while the glass smelts. There's no other motive here whatsoever. Trust me! Trust me! This was actually going to be the first time I've even interacted with villager trading as a concept inside a survival world, which I was quite excited about because I've always been in the case of, if I need a block, I can just go get it. If I need ender pearls, I can just go get it. But it just seems like the way forward. It just seems like the logical thing to do, because it just gives a really useful resource to pull from if you need something really specific. Because there's no point making farms if you need like a stack of a random obscure adjacent block and you're never going to need it again. You might as well just go for the villager trading process, which seems to be really, really good value. You can see that we've already threw all 3 of our golden apples at the 3 zombie villagers we have. We get the achievement, and it's not for the 2 sharing the boat. So it must be the kind new resident that currently resides in the yellow mushroom house that has been the first to cure themselves of the infected status, which we attempted to just drive the boat into the blue toad mushroom house, because that's where I had set up the 1-by-1 little areas to keep the villagers. But driving them there with slabs was not happening whatsoever. So instead we grabbed the lead and decided to just fly over the boat with some magical gravitational power that I'm not going to question because it worked amazingly and I don't want it to ever not work amazingly. What didn't work amazingly, however, is trying to get the villager to stay in one of the holes. This took so long, and this is going to be a reoccurring battle as for some reason I don't learn from my mistakes. But, you know, we eventually won on this attempt. With this win now in the bag and a spring in our step and a gleeful mood, we went to check on our other 2 villagers and we suddenly lost that gleeful mood. As you might have realised, what could have possibly happened. Yeah, it turns out leaving 2 zombie villagers in the same boat or a different cure countdown just leads them infecting one another as soon as they get cured. But if you think this is the silliest and stupidest decision anyone's ever made, I might be in contention to beat that already, in just a few moments. Enjoy! Like, I cannot be bothered messing about with this for long. You've got 2 boats, just hurry up and get in them. I really do not have the time for this. Like, one of yous are playing along, you are standing on top of the boat. You're just let me on the roof, you know, just let me on the roof. If I can just guide you from above, you should eventually do the thing you're... Oh, don't be annoying. Why did the block disappear? Why did the block disappear? That's not meant to happen. It's literally a single player world. How does that happen? I disagree completely. You're gonna die out here. Get back in here. Get back in here at once. Mister. This is not fun. It wasn't quite an ideal situation, but, you know, we just gotta move on with our day. The silver lining is now that the villager cannot possibly get reinfected, and we have a spare golden apple, because we crafted 2 expecting the cure 2. But, you know, it's good to have spare golden apples. Golden apples are just cool to have. They're golden and they're apples. That's a good combination of 2 words if I've ever heard one. I mean, the real winner is me from navigating around my home base and finally be able to get rid of this weird netherrack stone brick contraption that's been plaguing my life as an eyesore, to be totally honest, ever since really I've settled in. You might have already noticed as the moon rised and night came to day 50, I kinda snuck over to the village while it was all dark and every villager was asleep, because I had an incredibly persuasive sales pitch to one of the citizens of this village. And eventually, after enough persuasion and enough, you know, negotiations and talks, they eventually were convinced to hop on a board and to leave the city folk that they've surrounded themselves with, to turn over a new leaf on life and venture to new horizons, which is what our village was supposed to be. I mean, once we started chatting to the villager as we were starting to plunge down the mountain, they did seem genuinely interested in the happy home design that we were just portraying to them. We did look for whatever reason as we were falling down the mountain for any animals crossing, but there didn't seem to be any. I don't know why I would be looking for that. Can you work it out? As we turned around the corner, the house in the lighting just looked incredible. For some reason, I want to describe it specifically as a pocket camp sort of vibe. I don't know why that word specifically, though. I guess that's just the wild world we live in. It did eventually click in my mind that instead of doing this whole convincing villagers to join us escapade, we should just sort of build a little random structure, anywhere really, and place a bunch of beds in it, and just only really take 2 villagers and leave them in there and just see what they do while we sort of kill time, because it's going to be a lot quicker and a more useful use of our time to just have the villagers just producing themselves rather than actively having to grow the population ourselves. So that became the new plan. So boom, hit play on that CD as I unleash the greatest plan to raise a new generation with drawings and colours and all. Yeah, I might have run out of ideas to do this bit with Sonic games. I mean, every time I try to come up with something, it sounds like it's a language coming out of a lost world. It would take a real hero's journey for me to continue it. I love how I can already see the watch time graph just plummet immediately as soon as it hits this mark. So in an attempt to stay on task with the topic of the video, I used all of the wheat from our farm and a little bit of wheat we managed to take from the village in our brief visits, turned it all into bread and threw it all at these villagers, because I had no idea how much bread you're actually needing to make these 2 breed. I still have no idea. As long as I throw enough and they do the thing they're meant to do, I'm happy enough. It's just I've never really done this whole concept before. This is the first for me, so as long as the result is right, I don't really mind if I'm overspending on the wheat and bread, just as long as it works. And it did seem to work initially. We've already got 3 villagers in there, so it's time to throw out the rest of our bread well on down there. Yeah, all 27. You think that one's surviving? No, we're throwing it all down there and expanding our wheat farm because there can never be enough wheat. We need more We need more to grow this empire. We have 4 now. Yeah, you probably get the picture by now. You know, it's just breeding villagers throwing bread into the thing. But, you know, that's not the only thing happening. That's kind of like a big deal in the next few days that we're going to focus on. So just imagine that happening passively in the background. Also, you know, no, I did have to get more wood because it's me playing a survival world. When do I ever go 3 days in a row without collecting wood for like an entire day? Come on, it's the only thing I ever do. And also, just ignore me getting a sneaky screenshot opportunity here, because honestly, this just looks incredible, doesn't it? That lighting, that's basically just shaders, I'm going to be honest. Shaders just make any build look nice. You just completely ignore the massive dirt hut sitting on the left. It just looks, mwah, perfect. Do you know what would make it look even better? You probably already guessed because there's a double chest next to an open area. That's another build, more specifically, a fishing dock. Because right now, it seems the way for me to progress with the villages is to get a decent chunk of emeralds. And the way I decided that would be probably best to create a healthy stack of emeralds would just be trading with a fisherman version of the villager. So I kind of wanted a pretty place to just start fishing and start that grind. And I think this does the job pretty well. You might have already noticed actually in the background with the different iron golems or even cats scurrying around in the background that the village breeding centre has been an excellent success, to be totally honest. We have so many villagers, but it's all well and good having the villagers situated in this little dirt hut. What we actually need to do is have them inside the mushroom houses, because that's the only reason they were built in the first place, apart from, you know, looking pretty. It did turn out to be a massive time sink to actually go and do this, but eventually it got done. I mean, some villagers just wandered straight in, and some wanted to do a little dance in their new surroundings to get used to it before wandering in. It just sort of depended on the character of villager that we were dealing with. But one thing that was also pretty annoying in the yellow house is that I, for some reason, hadn't set up the 1x1 little things for them to stay in. So that did, you know, have to be done. But hey, after destroying the actual breeding structure itself and installing a state-of-the-art defense system inside each of the mushroom houses, we actually managed to pick up a fishing rod, go enchant it, and go on a quest to actually use our fishing dock. Or at least that was the plan, until an army from the underworld was sent to try and stop me. Luckily the army wasn't very strong, but it was very, very threatening. But you know, after taking a moment to compose ourselves, we realised they have incredibly cool mounts, like a see-through skeleton horse. Don't mind if I just quickly nab that and leave it at our home base, because it's a pretty cool thing of beauty, don't you think? But after dealing with that, we did spend the rest of our night just fishing, to be totally honest. That was the only thing that we ever did. After a full night of fishing, we went over to the fisherman to go, hey, what can we get for all this fish? And we got offered 1 single emerald for the fruits of our labour, which was quite demoralising if I can be totally honest, and really felt like I was robbed. So I tried to grab a few more things that I knew get villager trades and see, can they give me something of a better value, because surely that's not the rate I have to, you know, try get all the emeralds at, because that is incredibly, incredibly slow. Wheat sort of seemed like it'd be a good value thing with the composter, but even then it was very, very slow progress. I had a little look online of what things you get from different types of villagers, and it seemed that the armourer gave pretty cool diamond armour if you managed to grind it. So I did start to make the trade over and over again for iron boots and smelt down, then to iron nuggets to just keep the flow going. But I fished for a little bit longer and it just wasn't really going anywhere, if I can be totally honest. I kind of just gave up on the villager escapade and just decided, you know what, I can do something for actual progression. I can go to a nether, I can take all my beds from the breeding structure and go mining for some netherite. Which honestly turned into probably the most productive decision I made across probably the entirety of the 100 days, because once we started going with these beds in the hunt for netherite, it just always seemed to land the right way for us, and ancient debris was just apparent in every single explosion that we went through. It was honestly incredible. Also, just bear in mind relatively how many beds we actually brought down in this attempt. It was only 7 individual beds. It wasn't like a full inventory. It wasn't like we had like a great amount. It was just 7 attempts, and we got not just 1, not just 2, not just 3, not just 4, not just 5, but 6 whole different pieces of ancient debris. That's almost one bed for one piece of ancient debris in an exact ratio, which is insane value. So of course we had to smelt down this ancient debris, and I couldn't help but notice the poor beating that the iron golem had now started to take, since there wasn't any more spawning now that the beds were gone. It was just going to be till the last man stands, and it looks like that wasn't going to last for very much longer. But hey, there's no time to focus on that, because we're currently on a high of getting all the progression in the world. So it's time to make some more endgame armour, get an excellent protection for unbreaking on the leggings, but not as much luck on the supposed guarantees of the helmet. So it's time to go back to the nether for another quick trip to collect every single accessible quartz that was even possible for us to find around the portal, so we could have another reroll on potential enchantments for a helmet. Level 34 was the one we decided would probably be enough. And hey, we did get a reroll it, and we did get protection 4. Just not anything else but protection 4. So look, protection 4 is the main thing you're always looking for anyway, as all the generic protection things, and I don't know enough about different situations and multipliers with other forms of protection to see if they're better. So, you know, protection's just a safe bet. I did try to also enchant boots, but the guaranteed enchantments weren't great, so instead I just repaired the pickaxe. We also did attempt to throw the netherite ingot onto our best case of endgame armor, which is our leggings, and very quickly discovered there has been an update about almost 2 years ago at this point that I'm just completely out the loop of, introducing netherite upgrade smithing templates. And after tabbing out and doing a little bit of research, I came to learn that these are found in these nether dungeons called bastions, and you have to like venture to the deepest parts of these dungeons and find the chest, and inside the chest can be a netherite smithing template. But once you have one, you can just throw it together with diamond inside a crafting table and create multiple, which in my opinion is a lot better than what it was before. Before it's like, once you get diamonds, do you want to do the time sync for an hour where you just sit and strip mine so you can get netherite, or do you want to do it later? That was the only thing really stopping you going right from diamonds to netherite. So this is honestly a change I really like, and I don't know how I never worked it out till now. And going into one of these dungeons pretty much completely blind about how fundamentally they work was honestly quite a thrilling experience, as you're about to see. Right, that's the last stairs, let's actually get to the use so I can go in here. Oh, never mind. Let me go back to my wee cheesy bit up here. Hold on. Holy! Oh, no! How much damage do you do? Oh, no! How are you still climbing up? No, I've literally got full diamond on. Holy, how is it still chasing me? Jump. Oh my words. That's ridiculous. How many hearts of damage that do? Thankfully, after that incredibly stressful encounter, the two that chased us decided to push each other off the edge, and I just got to wander straight back to Bastion, where I took a slightly different route inside, because going through the main entrance and going through all the trials and challenges seemed like I would die pretty quickly, so instead I tried to break in from the side of it and hopefully land roughly where the chests were. Although doing this meant I had to deal with so many tanky brutes that were just waiting for me to enter, and I certainly didn't want to experience any more, so I just blocked off the entrance, because they have 80 hearts each. That is insane. Thankfully, it didn't take us too long to wander into the chests that were waiting inside, albeit these chests didn't have the template we were looking for, but they did have some ancient debris, which, you know, I'm not going to complain about. But after wandering a little bit further, I started to recognise the location I was in from the screenshots I did from a bit of research, as this was the centre point of the bastion, where there was different floors with an empty core centre with different drops leading to the lava below, and upon each floor had mountains and mountains of enemies for us to troll through. And once you get to the bottom, there's piles and piles of gold and chests filled with treasure waiting to be claimed by whatever brave adventurer goes through the process. So to fulfill that role in the story, I did try to put on my bravest face and go through it, but if you look at the playstyle I tried to actually attack these enemies with, you can see I was not very brave at all. In nearly every single fight, I came to me just towering up above the enemies so they couldn't hit me, and I could slowly prod away at my sword at them from a distance. If it's not broken, why fix it, alright? The formula works. So we then spent an incredibly long amount of time building a bridge and filling up little holes and dealing with the magmas to make sure I was never going to fall in that lava. Probably too much time though, as I did have a little piglin get a little angry at me that I took so long to actually do this. I mean, we did go from all the way from AM to PM just building these bridges and get rid of magma cubes, but eventually it was deemed safe enough for us to slowly edge closer and closer to the treasure that awaited us. And wouldn't you know it, we got the template that we were looking for, we got more diamonds, we got a bunch of gold, and all honestly it was an incredibly successful trip after an incredibly scary beginning, and an incredibly stressful the time inside the bastion. Look, I'm just happy that I didn't die in the end after I nearly, came close upon just trying to enter the place. I was fully expecting this to go horribly wrong. Sitting here thinking about hypotheticals isn't going to help anyone though, because the reality is, we needed to get a smithing template, so we went in the bastion, we got it, we left unscathed with a bunch of other goodies and treasures, and before long, we managed to get right back to the portal, so all in all, it was a very successful trip. It was obviously a very tough and emotional decision, but we had to dust down our collection of diamonds we had been pretty much stockpiling, and throw them into the crafting table to get more smithing templates. Although I'd like to note there was quite a bit of hesitation to do this, as I kind of like the idea of just having stacks and stacks upon diamonds and just pretending to be rich, but it turns out you actually have to spend them, which is very upsetting. But you know what's not upsetting? Having netherite armor. So I guess it's probably a worthwhile trade-off. I mean, if you weren't already convinced, look how amazing I look with the netherite leggings. You must be convinced now. I'm absolutely sure of it. The progression never stopped there, however, as we got a new diamond sword with sharpness 4 and fire aspect, along with some excellent boots that we could happily throw our feather falling enchantment book on and turn to netherite. So that looks like it's half our endgame armor ready already. Looking down at our little checkbox of to-do list for progression, the next task was a bit of a slow and grueling one, albeit it is the biggest net positive of having villagers set up, and that's the grind for a mending book. So it was time to commit time upon time upon time until we got probably the greatest mending trade of all time. One single book and one single emerald. That's it. That's it. For one mending book. One emerald and one book. I can't stress how insane that is. I know it was a Cure Zombie Villager, so it's going to be good regardless, but that is just the best value enchantment I've ever seen in my life. Although our progression in terms of our gear has never been better, there was one aspect of progression that had been overlooked, and that was our home base. So we need to go back to the Nether and gather up some resources to build another build. So we went back to our favourite hobby in the world of cutting down every single tree we can. The deeper and deeper we went into the woods, the louder this call from the very end of it seemed to be. Eventually I had to investigate, and I found a little Enderman party right at the end. It was a difficult decision to come to, but eventually I had to plunge my sword into each and every single one of these Endermen, as I need to put my ambition of travelling to the end dimension above all else. While the opportunity was there and I was still in the Nether, I did decide to mine a little bit more quartz, one because I was going to need it for this build, and two to get experience levels a bit healthier. It did lead to a near-death experience, but it was near death, not full death. Also, I did have no food at all in my inventory, so it meant I had to dig all the way to the portal and avoid any sign of danger, which destroyed my pickaxe. The hunger started to take over my mind as I wandered back through the portal, and considering how low my hearts were, there was only one thing I wanted to do, and that was to go to my cow farm and get some food using my fire aspect sword. However, swords have sweeping edge, and sweeping edge has never led to a good thing ever and only leads to tragedy. This obviously left me with just one cow, which made my future build that I'd been planning to do completely pointless. So as much as I got to throw all of our resource into a double chest for this build, I had to then spend the rest of the time hunting around the nearby environment, trying to convince cows and sheep while they were there into a new home. I mean, a new home was going to have to be coming for the cows soon, because where the cow farm is currently situated is where I want to build my next build, so maybe this was just for the better. Can we paint it as that? I doubt many people will believe it, but we can attempt to. What we can't paint in another direction though is if we finally got all these animals inside this hole and I was finally free from making poor decisions, I seemed to make another poor decision as I tried to block off the hole and wasted an ender pearl. It may have been a rash decision, but I rushed over to the old farm to vent my frustrations, and the poor cow that was left behind seemed to be the victim. I very much doubt now that the super cow we saved previously will ever come and help me. We weren't quite ready to start our next build just yet, so we tried to clean up the land just a little bit and start the process of removing the farms, because they were all in the way of where we wanted the build to land. In terms of resource management for this build, we weren't quite set up to be able to start the process, so we needed to venture back to a good old reliable location. The spruce forest, so we could mine down logs upon logs upon logs before moving on to the next resource that we had to gather, which we would only find deep in a cave. The two desired blocks that were located inside the cave that we needed to gather were first of all diorite, which we managed to get a decent chunk of in just a single vein. The other block was deep slate, which certainly didn't take too long to find, and we just managed to dig out a massive chunk of it right near the entrance of the cave, which gave us a very easy route to escape the cave, wander back on home, and start the building process. Although the building process couldn't be done done quite yet with all this farmland that was still right on the area we planned to build on. Thankfully, it didn't take too much time to commit to actually even out the ground, and before long we got to throw all of our resources into the double chest and we could finally start the building time-lapse. Or, well, it actually didn't start out as a building time-lapse, as we first had to work on pushing back the peak of the mountain ever so slightly so we had more space to work with, but after that was done we could work on the project, which was going to be a barn. We had two main motivations for building this barn. The first motivation was having an actual place to keep our animals inside instead of building random houses made of random blocks in different areas surrounding our house. The second motivation was so that we could actually have a place to keep our horses instead of having them just at the bottom of our castle tower. So we looked to build a small little hut attached to the right hand side so they had a place to live. Sadly, our willful volunteers from earlier didn't seem to like this place to live, inside the barn that is, and decided to despawn. And even worse for us, when we had a little look around, there was no animals to be seen anywhere. So we had to go on a massive hunt away from our base and go on an incredibly long walk to get some more sheep and cows to actually have someone use our barn. I know it's all made of nether blocks and it's all red and dark and spooky, but the nether's not all that bad. Did you not see the Minecraft Live that came out yesterday? There's Happy Gas. Happy Gas looks so happy. I mean, they're not happy when they're in the nether, but they're happy out with it, so there's good things found in the nether. You might have noticed during the speed build there's actually two placeholder blocks which are just deep slate, as they're meant to be hay bales, but I don't have nearly enough wheat, and I kinda destroyed my wheat farm to do the build. So I had to venture over to the village and nicely borrow some of their hay bales. As the night of day 73 fell, the opportunity of a side quest fell into my laps, as every single creeper and skeleton suddenly decided to show up right in front of my face, and an idea came to me. Why don't we use this opportunity to grind for some music discs by having the skeletons kill the creepers? This idea was incredibly successful, by the way, and we got not just one, not just two, but 3 music discs before we finally decided to complete the journey of heading home. Once we arrived home, we had only one thing in our mind, and that was to do the last few finishing touches to our barn. One of those tasks being to replace the cobbled deep slate that was at the sides with hay bales. Meanwhile, our other task was to go pick up the horses that have been sitting around at the bottom of our castle for far too many days and actually place them in their own individual homes. I'm sure you can already tell from me describing it how tiring and grueling this task could have been, so you already know we deserved a little treat after we were done, so we grabbed some of our diamonds that we've been hoarding inside our chest, created a nice new fancy diamond chest plate, and also the best thing we're probably ever going to craft in these 100 days, a jukebox, so we can sit here and jam out for a mandatory dance session with our 3 music discs. It was time very well spent. Even Blossom enjoyed it, so you can't complain. It was incredibly productive. Although it was time to follow through with the diamond chestplate we had just crafted, as this is going to be the next piece of our endgame armor. So let's throw a level 30 enchant on it and get probably the best enchants we've ever had. Protection 4, Unbreaking, and Thorns. Following this incredible stroke of luck, we decided to roll the dice on creating another diamond helmet, seeing if we could better the one we already had Protection 4 on. But with every reroll, there was nothing that was guaranteed to be better, and we eventually got an Unbreaking book from enchanting books for rerolls. So we eventually just threw that onto our existing diamond helmet, and that became our other piece of endgame armor. To keep up the pace with this progression, we also crafted a lectern and took it all the way over to the Yellow Toad House to see if we could manage to swindle our way to a nice book enchantment trade. More specifically, we wanted Unbreaking. We did ask the question many and many times to the villager, but we didn't seem to be getting the answer we were looking for and eventually just gave up. The next project coming up was going to require a lot of coarse dirt, and to craft coarse dirt we're going to need a bunch of dirt and a bunch of gravel. We did have a bunch of dirt laying around from when we mass collected it earlier on for the oak stairway, but gravel wasn't as kind to be lying around our base, so we did have to go on a little hunt and gather up as much as we could fit in our pockets. As tedious as gathering gravel can be during a survival, at this point we were starting to become a little bit of experts at the task, so it didn't take too long for us to muster up all the gravel we could possibly need and start building this project. You know, it's actually a good question of whether you would count this project as a build, or would this come under the term for terraforming? I mean, you might have already put the pieces together when I said coarse dirt was one of the core materials. As this build isn't exactly a core structure that stands strong on its own, it's more so a build that adjacently connects all of our pre-existing builds on a nice controlled route. That's because this build is a dirt path, but you've probably already noticed that considering I've been doing this exposition talk for pretty much the entire time lapse. Did you know this is actually one of the biggest builds in terms of time taken in the entire 100 days? This is more to do with the fact that it all happened in one single logged session where it took 6 whole Minecraft days to complete. The only session that comes remotely close where we done the entire build in one session was actually our starter base, which was 10 whole Minecraft days. It didn't take long for us to realise, however, that as soon as night fell and the darkness spread, we could not recognise the path whatsoever unless we had a torch in our hand. The solution to this required quite a decent chunk of iron that was sitting in our house, as we wanted to make a visually appealing light source, which in this case turned out to be lanterns. But even after that was done, the building projects just kept on going as we managed to craft a little bit of purple dye from remaining blue dye created for the blue toad house and red dye from poppies we had spare. The motivation for creating this purple dye was so we can create some purple concrete powder, which is going to be needed to create a variant of the mushroom houses that we have already for the villagers. The purpose of this was to eliminate the final disconnected structure that we were continuously interacting with in our base, which was the nether portal. The build settled relatively easy on the eye and looked matching enough with the other mushrooms, and wouldn't you know it, when we walked inside there was no worries about connections of this nether portal and the previous one, as it took us right to the same output the last one, so we had no worries about losing all of our existing paths already. The 100 days limit had actually snuck up on us a little bit during these two building projects, so next on the to-do list was to go right into the nether and get a grip on the ender pearl situation. Despite our amazing collection of blaze rods that we grinded for earlier, we didn't quite have the same effect on our ender pearls collection, so doing this was an utmost priority. It is important to differentiate the two opposite feelings of treating something as a priority and also recognising it's a priority. One of these sayings insinuates that you're ready to give time to the project, meanwhile the other insinuates that you're willing to focus on the project. But look, it does not matter if we lose focus and turn on autopilot, as we have full diamond armour. These endermen can barely lay a punch on me. It's not like anything could possibly change about the situation of our full diamond armour. If it did and we failed to notice, it would be very detrimental to the cost of us, you know, staying alive. It's not likely that's ever happened though, is it? Oh, what's that? Oh, it did happen. Oh, my diamond chestplate broke. Oh, well, I guess we got to take a very humiliating walk with absolutely nothing on us to attempt to retrieve at least some of our stuff. Certainly not the proudest moment of the 100 days, especially considering how well kitted out we are now compared to our very first death just a few days in. But at least we got exact revenge on the foe that put us in this dangerous situation. And luckily it didn't strike us this time. It was probably a little bit of a poor choice to leave our endgame armour sitting in a chest for this long, to be totally honest. But what can you do, it's in the past now. What we can do from this point is do everything possible to make our endgame armour as strong as possible. It was going to be difficult without enchanting considering we lost all of our levels, but an amazing alternative was simply just creating a bunch of beds from the sheep we had in our barn and getting beds for netherite mining. A decision was made because of the looming time crunch to break the sheep outside of their barn so they had more grass to choose to eat. However, this led to some sheep having a little bit of a rebellious nature and forming some sort of partnership with the ladders around the barn. I'm not sure what was causing this or what caused a sheep unable to be moved as soon as it attached itself to the ladder. What I did know is that it was spreading across all of our livestock, and that seemed like a very good sign for us to immediately run outside and let that fester with me far, far away from it. It didn't take us long after getting through the nether portal to make our way down to the area we frequent whenever we want netherite and start using all of the beds we had managed to craft. On paper, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to better our last experience in the nether, which albeit was a low bar, especially when you consider our previous experiences with mining ancient debris, when we almost got one ancient debris per one bed. However, there is actually a genuine argument that those low expectations weren't even beat during this trip, as we didn't seem to really get anything of substance through all the beds we had. Albeit this luck slightly turned around on our way heading back home as we discovered we missed not one, but two ancient debris in one of the holes. But it still wasn't a great return overall. And yeah, you're about to see that right, it was only 4 ancient debris despite all the wool that we threw into it. I'm not saying you're over-exaggerating, it was such a disappointing trip. We will attempt to put a little bit of a positive spin on things though, as 4 ancient debris is actually enough for 1 netherite ingot. So albeit we can't upgrade all of our endgame armour to netherite, we can at least upgrade one item, and the one item we decided would be the best case scenario was the helmet. This is because, unlike the chest plate, it's not very likely I'll take off the helmet for any technical reason. I mean, there is one technical reason, which is if I was ever to go underwater and need to use a turtle helmet, but that's not going to be coming anytime soon. However, a potential equipment replacement for the chest plate could be looming if we're successful in the end dimension. Despite it all not exactly being full netherite, With all of our endgame armour on, we do still look pretty awesome, that you cannot argue. Will it be enough to go to the end dimension and actually defeat the Ender Dragon? It's up for debate, but I think having an enchanted bow would be a good thing to have as well to bring with us in our arsenal. What's not pretty good, however, is a random thunderstrike deciding to appear while I'm getting some screenshots, and would you look at that, is right on our oak bridge. Thankfully we managed to eradicate it before it spread, but I didn't want to hang around to test to see if lightning truly does strike twice. I was filled with hope and determination to power through and find the stronghold, but just as I was leaving there seemed to be some chicken that was calling some unintelligible language to me, and I quite frankly didn't want to hear it anymore, so I dealt with that as quick as I could. We trolled through the harsh conditions the snowy biome threw at us until we finally ended up at an all-familiar spruce forest. There did seem to be a moment of shelter awaiting us before we went any further, so it felt like a good idea to set our spawn and stop any potential phantoms that looked to disrupt our journey. As luck would have it, just outside of the village borders seemed to be a guaranteed location of a stronghold if we're to trust the Eye of Enders, so we just have to dig down and have a little wander to see if we can find the location we're attempting to locate, and wouldn't you know it, after mining a few more blocks, we found those familiar mossy stone bricks and found ourselves inside the stronghold. We explored every single nook and cranny and every single hallway the stronghold could even offer, but we couldn't seem to find the portal room whatsoever. That is until we dug around a little bit and found that the entrance has been caved in. It's almost like some force was trying to stop us from doing what we're doing. It was very weird. What was even more peculiar is after digging into this supposed cave-in, it seemed to actually be some sort of blaster meteor strike from another world. It was filled with these powerful, yet familiar purple crystals. I definitely had to investigate further, but we don't have time right now. Right now we only have one thing in our mind, and it is to open up this portal with all the Ender Eyes we have brought here and bring peace and justice to the end dimension. So why don't we go ahead and make a start on that? Okay, maybe after I write down the coordinates for where the portal room is, that's, you know, something I kind of have to write down. But after that, prepare for the final duel that's awaiting for us in the end dimension. The very first thing we did, once the fight was initiated, was pull out our trusty new enchanted bow and arrow and start shooting down every single healing anchor we could possibly get an angle on. However, we quickly realised that this strategy might not work for every single healing anchor, so it means we have to turn to plan B, which is to simply use brute force and launch ourselves directly at the respawn anchors with our fists. Combining both of these plans seemed to be the key to getting past this portion of the fight, and eventually we could look around and see that every single active healing anchor had been dealt with. It was time to give a different approach to the next phase of the fight, so we had to get off this tower in a relatively safe way, which we did have a water bucket for, but the Ender Dragon was having none of it. We tried to fire back, hunting for revenge, and it nearly ended up with an arrow coming right directly back into us, but it seemed like an opening had came and the dragon was vulnerable, as it perched down and left itself, able to be prodded away with my swords. Very quickly this turned out to be the only available strategy to actually damage the beast, as we seemed to run out of arrows in the back of our quiver. The dragon became desperate. It started attacking and fighting anything it could. The Endermen were being slain by its own hands, and that's when I knew I had the dominant position in this duel. And before long, I finally prodded my sword in the back of the dragon one final time. And if the achievement were to be believed, we were the hero with the title of the one who freed the end. Whether this was free of the evil nature that seemed to possess all who reside in it, or free the end from just the monarchy of the Ender Dragon was up for debate. What wasn't up for debate is that we had control of whether the Ender Dragon monarchy was to return, as we had the only source of a natural offspring now in our possession with the dragon egg. We were incredibly grateful for that last moment of an angry, rash outburst the dragon had in its fleeing moments, as that gave us such a collection of ender pearls to use as we aimed to travel across all of the End Islands we could. This was, of course, as the End Islands had some incredibly useful resources on them if you can find where they're located. More specifically, all these useful resources reside in a structure. If I want to get even more specific about what structure, that's up ahead. The lost remains of an end city. And we could finally have the opportunity to dig our teeth into one and explore it for all the different treasures and goodies that it had hidden inside. The first trial to test if we're worthy of this treasure was this entity known as a shulker, which aimed to launch us up into the sky with its deadly projectiles and disorient us from achieving our target. Despite their best efforts, any successful blow they did manage to land on me were quickly negated by our fancy enchanted boots and their feather falling 4, resulting in me being able to deal with them relatively easy, as we got to open our first few treasures of goodies awaiting us, including a new armour trim. We did begin to get quite a taste for all these treasures and goodies the end city had to offer as we slowly made our way to the distant battleship, seeing if there was any more loot to be gained. After making quite an unorthodox entrance, we saw the famed elytra hung up on the wall as we dealt with a final shulker, and we were told that with its power, the sky is truly the limit. And that's not all. Inside the chest there was some incredibly useful resources, along with another sharpness 4 diamond sword that could be used later on. But that obviously wasn't the most flashy progression that was made. The most flashy progression was these new wings that worked in action that let us travel everywhere and anywhere in the world seamlessly. However, the high of chasing all these loot and resources had not quite been fulfilled as we tried to make our way to yet another end city that was in the distance. The reason for this extended stay in the current dimension is I needed to get a better grip on 2 different resources the end has to offer before I felt comfortable heading home. These 2 resources were first of all the drop that shulkers drop so we can craft ourselves some shulker boxes to make resource management and gathering slightly more efficient. Meanwhile, the other resource that we wanted to gather and get extra and spare of, in case anything awful were to happen or in case it were to break, was something we had no space for in our inventory, so we're very, very grateful an end chest was suddenly in this tower and we could just get rid of all the stuff that was clogging up our inventory. But this actual resource that we wanted to gather spare of was of course another pair of elytra wings, which, considering how swiftly we managed to grab it from the battleship before, it certainly didn't take us too long to repeat the same action once again on this attempt. And before we left this time, there was the one thing we remembered, and that was that there was an ender dragon head at the front of a battleship, and we kind of forgot to pick that up the first time around, so we made up for it on this attempt. However, from this point on, the only focus was now how on earth can we get home. So we did exactly that. We just travelled from the end dimension and made our slow journey back home. So while this journey's happening, I've got something to ask of you. Look, you already came what I'm going to say. There's no point doing a sales pitch of however many percent of you already subscribed and whatnot. Look, I'm just going to say if the opportunity's there and you'd like to subscribe to catch new content, it would be pretty cool. As it would help us reach our target for the end of the year of 1,000 subscribers, which I know is pretty ambitious. It's over quadruple the current sub count, but look, if you aim for the moon, what's the worst that can happen? You're gonna land amongst the stars? I can live with that. Anyway, with all the experience levels that we gained from defeating the dragon, we tried to use it as quickly as possible so we could never lose it on creating a sharpness 5 sword, an incredible bow, and a bunch of technical enchantments that may be useful later down the line. There was a few other building projects I did want to complete before we hit the 100 days, but I didn't feel comfortable doing them just yet until we had our gear completely padded out, so that was the #1 priority from now until we managed to do so. So we tried to get every single item that we had with the best enchants possible before eventually going back to the nether once again with all the beds we could carry in an attempt to get a full netherite set. It's something that's been in the distance and looming for us, but we've never quite been able to grasp it until now. And since we have the time, it seems like the perfect opportunity to set aside time to go mining for some ancient debris. I think it's safe to say that this ancient debris trip was far more successful than previous, not only because we found more often ancient debris in every single bed explosion, but they seem to become in more than just single units. We were finding multiple and veins chained together, which is always going to be useful. And before we knew it, we already had all the ancient debris we could need, and we could head home and start to smelt it. Now look, I'm as attached to the diamond chestplate surrounded by netherite armour look as much as you, and I know it's iconic and amazing, and I know you have such an emotional attachment to it, but let's be honest, a full netherite set is a full netherite set, and you can't possibly say no to something as strong as that, can you? I mean, just look how incredible it's going to look. It's fantastic. I even got an achievement for the honour. I had a quick look at the menu of what was needed to apply the smithing template armour design that we found in the end before having a little look at ourselves with F5 in our amazing armour. I did a little bit of research of what was needed for this design template that you can apply onto armour, and it seems to work logically the same way that the netherite template upgrade works, is in that you put one environment based block based on the biome or location or structure that you found the template in, which in this case is a purple block from the end cities, and you surround it with diamonds and you can create multiple. It also seems to be that you can dye it with some sort of ingot or a crystal, So you already know what we're going to end up doing to use ours. The powerful crystals we found previously, that seemed important considering it was crashed and caved right into where the end dimension was meant to be. Sadly, we managed to go through the entire end cities previously without collecting any of these purple blocks, so we had to go all the way back to the end city once again in a little side quest and just mine solely for these blocks. It did take us a little while, but we had to make sure we gathered just enough to make sure this scenario can never happen again, and then some extra just to be sure, as you never know. Then it was simply just a case of using our new fireworks with our elytra to head back home. I did miss it on the first attempt getting inside the portal, so I had to take the boring way of building a path up to it. A fun new gimmick had entered our arsenal of reoccurring gameplay, and that was that we were constantly taking pit stops throughout our journeys to kill any creepers that were sighted, as we had no renewable way of gathering gunpowder effectively. But look, once we were home, there was only one thing on our mind, and that was to finally put together all of our netherite armour with this smithing template and give it an incredible design trim. I mean, it was the plan until I found out that these amethysts that we collected, for whatever reason, just were not going in the smithing template. I couldn't work out why until I did a little bit of research, and I found out that because we mined it with Silk Touch, we didn't get the shards that were actually required to use this in its intended manner. Luckily, the fact that we had a fortune pickaxe meant that we had far too many shards by the time we break the thing, and we could happily work on dyeing and trimming all of our armour to look absolutely spectacular. Wouldn't you have a look of it now? I have never looked better in my life. But since the final days counter is now ticking faster and faster and faster, and we've done everything that would be a theoretical gear upgrade for our own personal experience, it's time we do the last few builds for our actual home base. But to do this, of course, we're going to need to gather up some resources. And since our last big build was going to require a massive chunk of sand because we're going to make it with concrete, we got to mine out an entire island's worth of sand and fill a shulker box completely. But we're all too familiar by now with the concrete crafting recipe, and we know the other half of the recipe requires a bunch of gravel. Although we didn't notice that the new shovel we picked up in the end had fortune on it, and it made it pretty much impossible to pick up any gravel, as every single drop was turning to flint. So I had to do a little detour of making a new shovel, and we used the Unbreaking enchantment on it along with the Efficiency 4 book that we picked up from the earlier batch of enchantment books. This obviously rectified the problem, and we got to go on another resource hunt. There was 3 things we were trying to target on this resource hunt. Number 1 was coloured dyes, more specifically any type of yellow flower possible. The second that we were aiming for was obviously gravel. We need a bunch of gravel to create concrete powder, so as much as it we can gather in a shulker box, the better. The third thing, and the reason why I'm flying out so far and searching and having to stop to do pit stops with creepers, is because I need to find a jungle. And I've not found a single jungle throughout this entire world, and there's one thing in the jungle I need. I need cocoa beans, because I need brown dye specifically. So it meant I had to fly and fly and fly until I finally found the jungle, and wouldn't you know it, I landed right into a jungle temple. We obviously rushed as soon as we were into the temple to look for the chest that had all the treasure inside. We had to be very careful walking through to make sure we didn't trigger any traps, and wouldn't you know it, inside, some more armour trims for us to potentially play around with. But after that side quest was done, it was back to being on the hunt for cocoa beans. Any cocoa bean we could possibly find was going to be useful, as we were going to need a ton for our final build and the days were ticking down. So the time we have to actually make a farm from scratch was quickly draining away. We did make a pit stop home to drop off some of the resources we gathered so far, most notably the sand, the coloured dye, and the cocoa beans. What's not a part of that is the gravel, as we failed to pick up pretty much any gravel as we were so focused on going as far as possible to try find the jungle first and foremost. Now that we had that in the bag, we could just commit time to grinding for all the gravel we could find in the land. Sadly for us, the most consistent way of picking up gravel seemed to be underwater, which made it incredibly tedious to collect as it would just float and spew all over the place. We gave it our best shot at committing to an entire shulker box full of gravel, but an executive decision had to be made at some point as we slowly started the journey back home, because it wasn't going to be theoretically possible to fill up a shulker box and still have time for our build. Well, more to do with the fact that I want to do 2 builds. One incredibly small build to fill out the area a little bit more, and then the big final build for the finale. The positive is, for the big build, we have every resource we could theoretically need to complete it. However, for the smaller build, we did have to pick up a little bit more spruce before we could fully commit to starting that. Luckily, it didn't take us too long to fill up our inventory with stacks of spruce logs, and then we just got to head on home and start the slower build. Albeit for the slower build, we first had to mine away at a little bit of the chunk of the mountain at the side to give us space for it, and obviously replace the floor with a bit more of a natural dirt. This small build was actually just going to be an incredibly small passive sugarcane farm, just so we had some sort of reliable way to get paper for the elytra, as we were struggling to steal every single bit that was lying around in the world already. After that was done, it was time for the most stressful experience of the 100 days since we explored the Bastion for the very first time. And that was, can we manage to make enough concrete powder and pour enough water on it before the time runs out, and can we then, after preparing all the concrete powder, actually build the final build? You might notice the day counter at the bottom has been sped up to a ridiculous amount. If you want an exact figure, this footage has been sped up to 37.6 times speed because of the ridiculous amount of concrete powder mining we did. It was worth it in the end, as we won the race against time to build a bee hot air balloon over our base. And it does look incredible. But since this year marks the time of an end of our 100-day world, and this video as a whole, I'll hand you over to a more serious tone right about now. 100 days in Minecraft. We're already at the final one now, so what's a worthy way of spending it? After spending all the previous days doing every single build we could ever have planned to do and more. We made so much progression, we've got full netherite, we've got incredible tools. So what is a fitting way to end 100 days? I mean, there's not a clear objective we can do, so why not let's do something for ourselves? Let's spend our last day on this world, on this recording, just doing what we want to do. And how do I want to spend my time my final day? Well, for the entire time the sun was up, I decided to make use of the fishing dock that I kind of gave up on pretty early on with villager trading, because it deserved a little bit of love, and I felt it was done quite harshly of the circumstances. But once the night came, it was time for us to slowly walk up that oak bridge one last time. We didn't fly for once using our elytra, which had come very, very common ever since we got it. The bridge has felt left out as well, and look, if there's someone who's going to feel left out after 100 days and we disappear, it's going to be Blossom, because Blossom might be on their own for a little while. Who knows next time I'm going to log on, but it would be wrong not to at least say goodbye. Give them a little steak as a treat, wish them the best, and wander away on our very merry way, because look, Blossom's been around since really, really early on. They've been one of the original friends that we've had in this journey, and it'd be wrong to just disappear. But look, the night's now coming to an end, so it was time for us to go up to the tower and have a little private discussion with one of the few constants of this world, and that was the moon. The moon that we'd grown so attached to by our lack of sleep. We saw it so many times while building. It was only right to see it one last time, have a few final words to say, before finally getting to rest our tired bee eyes, which have waited for a rest for ever so long. Good night.